As we get a better understanding of what has been quite an interesting topic over the past few days, let's get some perspectives from Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Falana. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. How are you?
So generally, what do you make of this?
Well, for me, what has been conceded by the state through the police is the recognition of the fact. And I do hope the government will not reverse itself. The recognition of the fact that Nigerians are entitled to protest peacefully. However, the government is saying, oh, we are clamping down on the protesters this time around because they used the word revolution. But before now, protests had not been allowed. Either by the Bring Back Our Girls, campaigners at the Unity Fountain in Abuja. Because since the Chibok girls were captured in 2014, that organization have been protesting daily, having a rally in a place in Abuja to remind all of us to task our consciences and remind government in particular that the Chibok girls, the Dapchi girl are still in the captivity of the terrorists. Government said, no, we don't want those rallies. The Shiites were also protesting peacefully to demand compliance with 2 court orders for the release of their leader and his wife. Government said, no. But now we are being told, oh, rallies are allowed in Nigeria. They must be peaceful. I think the lesson, that's the first lesson to draw from. The second one, and this is a painful one, is that protesters who are not armed, placard carrying people, are being so brutalized as is being shown all over the world. It does not portray us as a civilized people. And we can avoid that. Once you are sure that protesters are not armed, they are not throwing stones. What the law requires, and I'm talking of Electoral Act as amended on the 27th of March 2015, is that the police shall provide security for protesters. That is the law today. Because we had won the battle against obtaining police permit as a conditionality for rallies and protest marches in Nigeria. Incidentally, it was the case that we won for General Muhammadu Buhari and other political leaders of the AMPP, the defunct AMPP, and about 10 other opposition parties. From the High Court, Federal High Court to the Court of Appeal, the point was made that peaceful protests are part and parcel of the freedom of expression guaranteed by the Constitution, as well as freedom of assembly, which are entrenched in section 39 and 40 of the Constitution. And that was what led the National Assembly to amend the Electoral Act to defend that, notwithstanding any provision of the Public Order Act and the Police Act, Nigerians shall be entitled to protest peacefully. And that when they are protesting, the police and other security forces must provide security. So and that was not what we witnessed yesterday.
So what then do you think, leading to that question there, what then do you think informed this kind of result, that we have? Because, you would remember, of course, that before becoming president, just as you have mentioned, then, he was just a candidate. Muhammadu Buhari was one of those who protested peacefully, and, there wasn't any arrest, there wasn't any...
No. That's not correct. Okay. In 2003, September 22nd, 2003, the AMPP leaders, led by General Muhammadu Buhari and the late Chuba Okadibo, had a rally in Kano, because they were going to have series of rallies to protest the alleged rigging of election that year. The Olusegun Obasanjo regime asked the police to clamp down on the rally. And of course, the police did so violently and tear gassed the conveners and the participants in the rally. In fact, 3 days later, on the 25th of September, 2003, Dr. Chuba Okadibo passed on. And it was speculated that his death arose from the dose of tear gas, inhaled by him, because he had respiratory problems, breathing problems. Right? Now, that was what led us to go to court. So, even in spite of the judicial recognition of the right to protest, on many occasions, the police, the military, clamped down on Nigerians who were protesting. And you remember last year, there was an incident where about 50 Shiites were killed by the army on the streets of Abuja for protesting, for demanding for compliance with a court order. So we've always had,
So what do you think is responsible for all of this, Mr. Falana?
Is the failure to recognize that we are a free people. We are being ruled like a conquered people. And I have tried to make the point over and over again. The entire chapter 4 of the Constitution, which has outlined the fundamental rights of Nigerians, cannot be taken, cannot be violated or abrogated without a procedure permitted by the same Constitution. In other words, if you are going to take the right to life of a citizen, there must be a trial. Since death penalty is still part of our law, the person must have been tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. You cannot engage in extrajudicial killing of any citizen. If you are going to detain a citizen, like Showore, you can't detain him for more than 24 hours in a place like Lagos. Not more than 48 hours where you do not have a court within a radius of 40 kilometers. Now, I'm talking of Section 35 of the Constitution. If you are therefore going to detain Showore beyond 24 hours, you must go and get a court order. 3, if you are going to violate my right in any way, you must get a court order. If you are going to seize my account, if you are going to seize my passport, you must get a court order. So this will show that we are a civilized people. If you had information that the Revolution Now people were planning to disrupt the peace of the country, and you had information for about 2 weeks, what is required by the law? It's not a threat. Oh, treason is going to be committed. Oh, you are terrorists. No. The police will approach the court.
So you're saying the federal government erred?
Oh, yes, for sure. The police will approach the court. This is the information we have. I've seen some of the tapes being circulated. No, you cannot engage in media trial. You have put somebody in detention. You are circulating dangerous information. Oh, he wanted to overthrow the government. Oh, he has taken money from somewhere to overthrow the government. Please file a charge in court. But if you have the information that Mr. Falana wants to cause a disruption in Lagos, you will go to court and get a court order. But you cannot sit down in your office and say, oh, I have concluded that this is treasonable felony. This is treason. This is terrorism. No police officer,
so in all of these,
no security officer has the power to make such a declaration.
In all of these, you would say that, or you're saying that the state erred, and of course the protesters are saying that they're going to continue Yes. And but meanwhile, the office of the presidency is saying the revolution has failed. You know, from the quote that was released by the SSA to the president on media and publicity. You know, millions of Nigerians went about their businesses. By doing so, the millions defended our country's hard-won democratic rights by ignoring calls on social media to join a phantom revolution. So to them, the revolution has failed.
I wish government well. But if you are sure the revolution has failed, or if you were sure it was going to fail, why bring out the army? Why bring out the police? To do what? And these guys did not say, we are going to cause such a disruption that nobody will move. If you're having a rally at the stadium, not on the street of Lagos, why should any government feel so disturbed? No, you can't do that. Under the Olusegun Obasanjo regime, there was a time that Labour was going to go on strike. And government confirmed the mobilization for the strike and across the country. Strike and public protest. What did government do? The government approached the court, a court in Lagos here, in the dead of the night, and got a court order that the strike should not take place. Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, the current national chairman of the APC, was the chairman of, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress. And I think Comrade Peter Esele was then the president of the TUC. So they were confronted with the order the following day. One way or the other was served. And so, we had a dilemma. The late Chief Gani Fahimi and I had to spend 6 hours at the Sheraton Hotel in Ikeja here to convince all the labor leaders who had gathered in Lagos why the order had to be obeyed. And they said, no, this is a black market injunction. Oh, yes, but you have to obey it. Because next time that your members are arrested, the government will say, you didn't obey the order the last time, so we are not going to, even if a court says we should release you. So we said, no, you must obey the order. And that is what the rule of law is all about. And they obeyed the order. We said, give us a week to go back to the court and set aside the order. And on the basis of that assurance, the strike was postponed and we're able to vacate the order.
Now, so we don't treat Nigeria as an isolated case. Pardon me for jumping in. There have been protests in the United States. Over the mass shootings. We saw thousands protest. And we see how the government handled it in the United States. Let's go to Hong Kong, for example. There have been protests 9 weeks running. And in fact, the protesters are calling for the resignation of the chief executive, that's Carrie Lam. And we've seen how there have been arrests made, but we've seen how the government is handling this.
No brutalization.
Now, you mentioned, the way the government handles dissenting voices. And I'd like you to explore this more. What does this say about the way the government, as it is now, is handling dissenting voices?
Well, for me, as I see this day, Sowore was captured on Friday night. And when I say captured, I use that word deliberately. I had one in 2016 when judges were arrested in the dead of the night. Please, don't do it. Don't do it. Because criminals might take advantage of people wearing masks in the dead of the night. Officials of government wearing masks in the dead of the night. And I've seen that in this case. Criminals might take advantage to kidnap people. And you'll be told that it was done by the State Security Service. There was a time the late Dr. Bekoran Kuti was arrested in his house in Anthony. I was arrested. I think I was living in Ketu then. I was dumped on Ekpe Road. Dr. Kuti was dumped on Badagry Road. The way kidnappers will behave. And that was done by the government. And we said, no, don't arrest anybody in the dead of the night. You must learn to be civilized. Because it is dangerous to do so. In the case of Sowore, he kept them waiting for over an hour because he didn't know who they were. Until the hotel management confirmed that this guy claimed they were from the office of the State Security Service. 2, you have arrested him now since Friday night. the young man that did the shooting in El Paso in America, a 21-year-old guy, was arraigned yesterday. Those who were alleged to have rigged elections in South Africa were taken to court the following day. I'm talking of the recent general election. Right. In the case of Nigeria, all those who rigged elections in February and March this year have not been arraigned, have not been taken to any court. A culture of impunity. So if you want to organize Nigeria along democratic, civilized standards, we must let our security forces know, all the public officers in the security agencies appreciate that there are irreducible minimum standards with respect to the treatment of suspects and other Nigerians. So what you saw yesterday was a disgrace, and totally uncalled for.
And what we also gathered is that the same thing is going to continue. What would you say? That what do you expect to happen?
Well,
I mean, the protesters are saying that it's going to continue.
It's going to be difficult for a government to stop protests. It's difficult. Once you have now recognized that Nigerians have the right to protest, you must protect them. Protect them. You are now convinced that there was no revolution yesterday. The people now say, we are on the street peacefully. You have no right to stop them. So government, declaring a party victory over a protest that you clamp down on, it's neither here nor there. You should stop, and I have warned, please stop embarrassing the government, particularly the president, who had caused in 2011 to recommend the Egyptian revolution to Nigerians.
So do you think the president is not aware of what's happening? If you say
no,
official...
You see, I'm saying that. I'm not saying that the president is not aware. I mean, everybody is watching the development. But I'm saying the president is being challenged with his own involvement in protests in the past. So Nigerians are therefore saying there must be consistency on the part of those who were in the government. Some of them were in ADECO. Those who are in government now, they took part in protests with us, organized by us. On their own, the APC leaders, the last rally the APC leaders organized in Abuja was on the 19th of November 2014 to protest against insecurity in the country. If other Nigerians now are protesting against insecurity in any part of Nigeria, you cannot clamp down on them. And that is what Nigerians are saying. Mr. President, please recognize our rights as yours was recognized in the past.
Right. Now, Mr. Falana, you're a respected legal practitioner, and people love to hear your views on things. I'm sure you have looked at this situation objectively, I believe so. Now, is there any justification for what the government is doing right now? Any justification?
No, there can be no justification, as I did say. But I also want to assume that in some of these crises, the government has not been exposed to sound legal advice. The last time we have this kind of harassment of Nigerians over the use of the war revolution was in 1948. We were recently reminded by Comrade Edwin Madunagu that in 1948, some young Nigerians, Sikis, members of the Zikis movement, without Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, were disturbed that the politics of the country was being ethnicized. So they formed that body to say, we are going to take the Nigerian politics, we're going to elevate politics to a higher pedestal. So they launched a movement to demand for revolution in Nigeria, 1948. So they were going to have a series of lectures. They had the first lecture here in Lagos at Glover Hall, delivered by Osita Aguna. The chair of that program was the late Chief Tony Nahoro. Young people in their 20s and 30s. I think the second one was delivered by I think it's Rabi Amdala. they were arrested for calling for revolution, charged, convicted, and sentenced to imprisonment for periods ranging between 6 months and 3 years. A colonial regime, but they were not charged with treason or terrorism or treasonable felony. They were charged with sedition. 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 And seditious publications. The provisions of the criminal code providing for sedition have been declared illegal and unconstitutional in 1983, July 1983, by the Court of Appeal.
So you believe that the government is not justified whatsoever?
No, not at all. I'm talking of our law.
Right.
Okay.
I'm talking of cases that have been decided in Nigeria. So you can't charge anybody with treason or treasonable felony for saying we are going to cause a revolution.
Okay.
That is part of the freedom of expression.
Mr. Falana, we're running out of time now, so let me just quickly take you up on this before you go. So El Zakzaki is, of course, you talked about that also, the protests and everything that they had also engaged in, and a number of illegalities, as you put it, that government was engaged in. But now the government has decided to obey that court order and allow the couple to go for treatment in India, but with conditions. How does that make you
feel? No, we commend the judiciary for the intervention of the Honorable Justice Darius Akibo for intervening to save the country from what might be a crisis of monumental dimension. I.e., once it is shown that a Nigerian in the custody of the state is indisposed to the extent that his life is endangered without any application, the government must treat him either locally or abroad. This has been part of our law since 1917. The colonial regime, I think Regulation 124, the Prison Act, no, Regulation 12 is to defend that if somebody is sick and his life is endangered and the government has no facilities to take care of him, his friend or family members can apply for his release so that he can be treated and brought back to prison. In this case, the state has been unable to treat Ezaki and his wife. We then apply to the court, grant them leave to go abroad to an identified hospital in India for them to treat themselves at their own expense. And that was the order the government, the court made.
What do you make of the conditions?
Now, because they have not been, the government has not complied with the earlier, no, or let me say, they have been charged with a criminal offense. So the trial is still on. That was why the court gave the condition that allowed them to travel, but supervised them. Because the government expressed the fear. Now, if they are allowed to travel unconditionally, they may not come back for their trial. Because they say, no problem. We'll take care of your fear. They will be supervised by the government. That is the essence of the order. But I was pleased to learn last night that the State Security Service announced that the order will be complied with. For me, I think that is a good development. I do hope that other court orders, including the one for Dasuki, will be complied with, so that we can join the rest of, the Committee of Civilized Nations.
Okay. Well, Mr. Falana, it's a very, very good place to let the rest of it lie. I want to thank you very much for making time to be here this morning. Mr. Falana is a senior advocate of Nigeria, and he's been here with us talking about interesting things that you've seen so far. We'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us.